With other team members, Berger, Elliott, and Kruger, foreground from left view the first images from the fossil chamber. Steve Tucker at far right co-discovered the site. Kay Lindsay Hunter and Elia Gertov, back left, helped excavate the bones. In paleanthropology, newly discovered specimens are traditionally held close to the vest until they can be carefully analyzed and the results published, with full access to them granted only to the discoverer's closest collaborators. By this protocol, answering the central mystery of the rising star find. What is it? Could take years, even decades. Berger wanted the work done and published by the end of the year. In his view, everyone in the field should have access to important new information as quickly as possible. And maybe he liked the idea of announcing his find, which might be a new candidate for earliest Homo in 2014, exactly 50 years after Louis Leakey published his discovery of the reigning first member of our genus Homo habilis. In any case, there was only one way to get the analysis done quickly: put a lot of eyes on the bones. Along with the 20 old senior scientists who had helped him evaluate the Malapa skeletons, Berger invited more than 30 young scientists, some with the ink still wet on their PhDs, to Johannesburg from some 15 countries for a Blitzkrieg Fossil Fest lasting 6 weeks. To some older scientists who weren't involved putting young people on the front line just to rush the papers into print seemed rash. But for the young people in question, it was a pale fantasy come professor at the University of Arkansas. In grad school, you dream of a pile of fossils no one has seen before, and you get to figure it out. Support for this project was provided by the Linda Hill Foundation and your society membership. The workshop took place in a newly constructed vault at Wits, a windowless room lined with glass paneled shelves bearing fossils and casts. The analytical teams were divided by body part. The cranial specialists huddled in one corner around a large square table that was covered with skull and jaw fragments and casts of other well-known fossil skulls. Smaller tables were devoted to hands, feet, long bones, and so on. The air was cool, the atmosphere hushed. Young scientists fiddled with bones and calipers. Berger and his close advisors circulated among them, conferring in low voices. Delazine's own fossil pile contained 190 teeth, a critical part of any analysis, since teeth alone are often enough to identify a species. But these teeth weren't like anything the scientists in the tooth booth had ever seen. Some features were astonishingly human-like. The molar crowns were small, for instance, with 5 cusps like ours, but the premolar roots were weirdly primitive. We are not sure what to make of this. Delezin said, "It's crazy." The same schizoid pattern was popping up at the other tables. A fully modern hand sported wackily curved fingers, fit for a creature climbing trees. The shoulders were apichy too, and the widely flaring blades of the pelvis were as primitive as Lucy's. But the bottom of the same pelvis looked like a modern human's. The leg bones started out shaped like an Australopithecines, but gathered modernity as they descended toward the ground. The feet were virtually indistinguishable from our own. You could almost draw a line through the hips. "Primitive above, modern below," said Steve Churchill, a paleontologist from Duke University. "If you'd found the foot by itself, you'd think some bushman had died. But then there was the head. 4 partial skulls had been found. 2 are likely male, 2 female. In their general morphology, they clearly looked advanced enough to be called Homo. But the brain cases were tiny, a mere 560 cubic centimeters for the males and 465 for the females, far less than H. erectus' average of 900 cubic centimeters, and well under half the size of our own. A large brain is the sine qua non of humanism, the hallmark of a species that has evolved to live by its wits. These were not human beings. These were pinheads, with some human-like body parts. Weird as hell. Pale anthropologist Fred Green of the State University of New York at Stony Brook later said, "Tiny little brains stuck on these bodies that weren't tiny. The adult males were around 5 feet tall and 100 pounds, the females a little shorter and lighter. The message we are getting is of an animal right on the cusp of the transition from Australopithecus to Homo," Berger said as the workshop began to wind down in early June. "Everything that is touching the world in a critical way is like us. The other parts retain bits of their primitive past. In some ways, the new hominin from Rising Star was even closer to modern humans than Homo erectus is. To Berger and his team, it clearly belonged in the Homo genus, but it was unlike any other member. They had no choice but to name a new species. They called it Homo naledi, tipping ahead to the cave where the bones had been found. In the local Sotho language, naledi means a star. The brain case of this composite male skull of H. naledi, shown actual size, measures a mere 560 cubic centimeters in volume, less than half that of the modern human skull behind it. Female brain cases were even smaller. Tiny little brains stuck on these bodies that weren't tiny. Weird as hell. Fred Green, paleanthropologist. We've found the most remarkable creature. Liebherr, paleanthropologist.